Heroes Forge, a Heroes of the Storm podcast.
What's up, Forgers? Welcome to Season 2, Episode number 71 of Heroes Forge, a community-driven podcast all about Heroes of the Storm. This is your show host, as always, Jeff Reynolds, and I'm here with the co-host of the show, who, believe it or not, is more awesome than a full team of support heroes. It's Kristen Ashton. Kristen, recently I have found out that this is pretty freaking awesome.
What, a full support team?
Yes.
That is an open wound right now, Jeff. This weekend in Team League, the first game we played was against full support, and we were all going, ha, we got this, and had our butts handed to us. It hurt. It hurt so bad. But it's cool that you can pull off full support teams.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's cool. I also think that it's really telling that maybe Blizzard needs to kind of draw the reins a little bit here and think about what the way supports are playing right now. I mean, tell us a little bit about it. So what was your comp like? And I mean, you were up against 5 support characters. Now, that being said, they did have Karazim, and Rhaegar was dishing out some damage, right?
They did. Rhaegar, I do believe, ended up top damage, and he was a beast. Karazim didn't care. Tassadar was the jerk in the back lines, and they had someone else I don't even remember. I was on Lily, and we had a basic comp, really. 2 supports, damage, tanks. I've tried to wipe it from my memory, Jeff. I've tried to destroy it.
And look at me, and the first thing I want to bring up is this, and everybody should know, I mean, you're playing with a pro team here. I mean, Kyle Ferguson, the guys from Core, I mean, these guys play and talk and learn and teach about this game constantly. And I mean, you guys, it was so awesome to watch this game and think, I thought it was in the bag at the very beginning. I thought you guys wiped it with the draft. And then Kyle Ferguson started talking a little bit about how to counter something like this. And it was out of the blue when you guys had to choose a counter for this. And so, I mean, now I think if you guys went into this battle, you would be more prepared. You are prepared now. But back then, I think it took you a little by surprise, and it was a little crazy, but so fun to watch. I mean, the Team League streams that Kyle does are so great to watch because you guys have the best attitudes no matter what is happening, and it's entertaining, and it's a learning experience, and so it's just awesome. I mean, what did you take away from that game that you played?
What I took away from it is that we probably needed more damage. I think more draft study is required because you would assume that in Heroes, all of these healers have counters to an extent. And in that case, maybe we should have drafted more to counter those. We should have had more damage, most definitely, because, well, I mean, all healers. And also we should have played more carefully because you have to drain their mana before you can go in and just clean house. It was such a mistake to dive in going, yeah, we got this, shooting our little hillbilly guns and then just getting wrecked.
Yeah, well, you definitely have so much knowledge of this now, and it's great. And you took one for the team, Kristen, because now if that happens to me, I will kind of have the same experience. And I know tons of people were watching at that moment. So, I mean, this is something that you could, at home, as a listener right now, experience in your games. Take away a little bit of what Kristen said right there. Go back, watch the VOD on Kyle's stream. It's very entertaining, and those guys are awesome. Let's talk about Heroes right now, because that's what we're here to do. Did you know, I didn't know this until yesterday, that there is a Wolverine Karazim skin?
Yes, did you get that skin? Is that why you now know about it?
No, somebody was playing against me as Karazim, as Wolverine, and the entire game I was like, I just want this game to be over so that I can go and buy that skin.
Yeah, it's so cool. So I think there are about 3 color variations you have to this thing. So you can do regular Logan, or you can do kind of an old man Logan, depending on what kind of Wolverine is your favorite.
That is so cool. I'm not a huge Wolverine fan, but I just think that is Very it's clever, it's cool, and this just kind of popped into the game. I think it probably came with 2.0, although I didn't see it when 2.0 went live, but I didn't research every single skin like some people did. But I'm telling you, these little Easter egg things are popping up all over the place, and 2.0 is alive and well.
It is, it's beautiful. And I mean, speaking of the skins, there are Sylvanas skins, Illidan skins that have just kind of happened. I mean, the new Sylvanas one is based off of her Legion model. And then the Illidan, the betrayer with the horns coming out of his face the entire time. And I talked about it last week with the panda on the glaive. It's really cool that they're quickly able to implement new skins without having to do a package deal.
Yeah, it's really great. And yeah, the whole package idea of how they used to show those videos of in development, which I'm assuming we will still see, although I do expect that they're paying more attention at Blizzard to releasing these things quicker. I think we will see skins, mounts, those things faster than we have in the past because of this loot chest system, because of the duplicate system and getting shards and all that stuff. I think they're ready to kind of rock and roll and dish out some serious content.
Yeah, and I mean, look at Overwatch, what they've done with that. So we know they have the capability to just pop out really amazing, imaginative stuff on the fly and regularly, too. And think of all of the holiday events we're going to be having now and all of the cool holiday skins that are going to be coming out.
Oh, yeah, I hope we have some really cool holiday. I would be down for holiday loot chests. I'd be down for all of those things. It'll just be awesome. Have you had a chance to play the Brawl this week?
I haven't. Have you?
I have, and I think it's my favorite Brawl.
So what is the Brawl this week?
So this week it is on Hanamura, but it is a modified Hanamura. And the best way to describe it is that you are playing a payload escort Overwatch game, but in Heroes. So it is one lane. The payload spawns right at the beginning of the game. If you are on the attacker side, I guess it would be the attacker side. Well, one of the sides is going to push the payload, and the other side is going to try to prevent the payload from getting to the destination before the time runs out. So if you're that team, you spawn right away, and you can run straight through, and you can run just like in Overwatch all the way across the map up to where the enemy team is being held, and then when the timer expires, they come bursting through the door just like in Overwatch. They're trying to move that payload. Oh my gosh, it is so freaking fun.
That's great, and it sounds like, too, it's helping you practice Hanamura if you haven't gotten to play that map a lot, which most of us haven't, because it is the brand new hotness to the Nexus, as it were.
Yeah, and it is just really incredible. You gotta play it. It's just, if you like Overwatch, and I love this cross universe, cross gaming platform, it's coming all together really with this, and it is really fun, and it works. I think it honestly works. Some people aren't huge fans of it, but I think it's just really, it's a killer concept, and it really translates to Heroes well, and I did have a really fun time playing it with 5v5 Ragnaros with my gaming buddies.
Oh, nice. And too, you would have to imagine, if you approach it critically, playing this Brawl again and again and again would help you kind of figure out what heroes are the best for defending payloads, which would then come into handiness on Hanamura itself.
Yeah, great point. It's really fun. If you haven't played it out there, go out there and play it. Okay, we got to take a second here and talk about something totally awesome. I mean, this is really, really awesome. It's called Con Before the Storm, and if you're listening to this show, you probably know what this is already, but in case you don't, Kristen, why don't you fill everybody in on what this is? It's an event that happens the day before BlizzCon, and what does it all entail in a nutshell?
Oh, in a nutshell, Con Before the Storm is a party by the community for the community. And this is a really incredible event that I have had the pleasure, the honor, in fact, of going to the past few years. It's slowly grown, and initially it was just meet podcasters from the different podcasts of Heroes games, and then all of a sudden it seemed to explode over the course of 1 year. There's art galleries, there were panels last year, there were photo booths, There was a bar even, I believe. And so this year, of course, it's pushing to be an even bigger party for the community.
Yeah, it's huge and it's awesome. And I mean, the energy is crazy because everybody is ready. I mean, they are ready for BlizzCon. And so the people you talk to and the people you meet and everything, it's just a killer experience to go to. It's called Con Before the Storm, and they have a Kickstarter campaign in order to fund this happening. Now, the good news about this is that the Kickstarter campaign for this event has already been funded, and, you know, I have to say a personal thank you. I know I'm not part of this, but I want to thank everyone out there that helps fund this event because I really enjoy going to it. So, I mean, thank you to everyone that has donated and made it possible for everyone like me to be able to attend this event. And if you haven't yet contributed to Con Before the Storm, you still can, because the great part about this is that there are stretch goals for this, and one of the stretch goals, Kristen, it directly affects our show and Amove TV.
It does. The first stretch goal is that Amove TV and Frog Pants, those meetups that are usually at bowling alleys or crazy other places across Anaheim, will be held at the Hilton. That's amazing, because basically everything, the pregame for BlizzCon, happens at the Hilton.
Yeah, and that's where the energy is. So check out their Kickstarter page. Just search for Con Before the Storm on Kickstarter. You'll find them right away. You can see all the tiers of awesome stuff you can pledge towards. We give it 2 thumbs up, 4 thumbs, 2 from me and 2 from Kristen, I know. So check it out and see if there's something you might be able to pledge. Speaking of pledges, we have a huge announcement and a huge thank you. We have a brand new patron, and we need to thank Gabriel G for becoming a patron of the show. Thank you so much for your support. It's awesome. And a huge thank you to all of our current patrons out there. As always, you guys are rock stars, right, Kristen?
You are. You make us do this. Well, you don't make us do this every week, but you fill us with the excitement and the fervor to keep pursuing this. And we love you guys for it.
Yeah, absolutely. I second that. If you'd like to become a patron of the show, you can go to patreon.com/HeroesForge, and over there you can check out our patron goals. And again, a thank you to Gabriel G for becoming a patron this week. And with that said, I think all the patrons and everyone even listening to the show would like us to forge. So let's do what we're here to do, and let's forge.
Let's forge.
Kristen, we had a dead tie, 50-50 in the vote last week for which one of our builds was better. So because I haven't chosen in a while, I decided to choose this week.
I think that's completely fair. And you did a great choice with your choosing. This is a freaking awesome dude, tyrant ruler to add to the Nexus, I think.
I totally agree. And this actually idea... Warcraft, the movie, was on TV, and whatever your opinion of the film Warcraft is out there, I think we all are fans of this lore. We all are fans of these Blizzard games, so there is a part of me that just really enjoys it. So I sat down and I watched it, and I just took it for what it was, and I thought, you know, this character, which is Blackhand from Warcraft, needs to be forged because it's deep. He's a tyrant, like you said, big, strong, you know, just strong in so many ways, like personality and also physical stature and all this stuff. I mean, Blackhand, Kristen, we gotta.
Right, and look at those shoulder pads.
That's right.
The spines of his enemies, of his conquests, that is a dream of mine. I know it could never be fulfilled, but maybe one day I could voice a character who has spines as shoulder pads.
You know, cosplay, Kristen. You could be Blackhand, like you know, the female version of Blackhand.
The tiny Blackhand, the tiniest terror that ever terrorized Azeroth. I was going for another T, but it didn't work.
No, I mean, Blackhand is great. And if you've seen the Warcraft movie, I mean, this is a character that's going, and we've been doing this a lot this season, is going way back into these Blizzard games, way back into games that, you may not even know exist that were created by Blizzard and chosen a character. Blackhand is way back there. But the interesting thing about Blackhand is that there are multiple versions of Blackhand that you could create hero kits for and bring him into the Nexus because his lore is so odd and in different places with huge turns and twists. So let's hear a little bit about Blackhand and his place in Warcraft.
Alrighty, so the basic story goes like this. Chieftain of the Blackrock clan and the first war chief of the old Horde, Blackhand was a brutal tyrant, brilliant tactician, and ruthless leader. Seen by Gul'dan as an easily molded, ambitious orc, it was hardly surprising when Blackhand came to lead all of his people on Draenor with the help of the old warlock. He would eventually stand with Gul'dan in drinking the blood of Manroth, cursing his people for a time. After leading the Horde through the Dark Portal, defeat at the hands of the Alliance left the leader weak. Orgrim Doomhammer was the one to take advantage of this, sick of the direction his people had been taken. Luring Blackhand into a trap, Doomhammer, the backstabber, killed the bloodthirsty tyrant and ushered in a new age for orcs across Azeroth.
Absolutely. And this is the official story. Like, this is exactly the official story. Now, what I meant before is that this goes in so many directions because there's this story, and then there's the story that we see in the film, right?
It is. It's so Blackhand has an official death. He's not brought back after he dies. In all of the lore that I read, he's killed by Orgrim. However, within this little time period that he lived, there have been numerous, I guess, retcons, metcons, I don't know who did all these retcons of this guy. But yeah, the film, then of course there are the games. Even his image changes over the course of the years as he's developed into what we saw him as designed as for the Warcraft movie.
Absolutely. And then there's also, in the alternate universe that is Warlords of Draenor, there's Blackhand is in that universe as well as a completely different character, obviously, because it's a completely different universe that they're all living in. And so there are really 4 different types of Blackhand that you could bring into the Nexus that would all do justice to Blackhand, but it would be very different.
It would be, and that is kind of the trick with Blackhand, right? Because successfully, to bring a character into the Nexus, you have to appeal to the most iconic version of that character. And with 4 different types of Blackhand, would the main Blackhand be the most iconic? Or has that changed because of all of the different alterations that have happened since he originally appeared?
Yeah. It's great. I think it's so cool because, I mean, I could see a way that they would, for example, Diablo, right, is in the game now, and then there is that Primeval Diablo skin, which is it's alternate universe, really. I mean, it's the same universe, but it's a different Diablo than we see in the other Diablos, but it's the same. I mean, that's kind of what I'm trying to say here, is that there's a potential for Blackhand to have multiple skins that kind of play out the different places that he's been.
Totally, right? Because some people, I'm sure, really, really like the antlers coming off of the original design, as opposed to the huge, crazy shoulder pads and stuff we got going on later down the road.
Yeah, and then there's the molten core looking shoulder pads from Draenor, where he's basically on fire like Ragnaros. I mean, it's very different and very cool. Okay, that's enough about all of this. We just get stoked about this kind of stuff, and I could talk about this all night. But we got some kits to talk about here. So, Kristen, we're going to start with your kit tonight. The first thing we talk about here, if we were to bring Blackhand into the Nexus, what role would you bring him in as?
The role I would bring him in as is a bruiser. Now, I thought maybe warrior full, but the fact that he was so brutal in war and was always there destroying people, I felt that spoke a bit more to the bruiser aspect. I really wanted him to be able to do damage and be a big lumbering opposing foe.
Right. I think I feel the same way when it comes to I see these characters like Tyrael, for example, and I definitely feel that he is, in my mind, would be more of a tank than a bruiser. He's righteous. He's out there on the battlefield taking shots for people because he wants to be the one to kind of, get down, sir, moments where he jumps in front of you and takes that Nova triple tap and says, so you don't have to take it. I don't see that with Blackhand. I see exactly what you said, where he's in there and he's dishing out some major raw damage, but he's thick. I mean, he's a guy that can really take some hits too, which equates to bruiser.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, he's one of those battle commanders that would blame you for taking damage in the first place, right? He would not take any excuses from his team. It's all everybody else's fault because you weren't with him up in the front line following his dream of glory.
That's right. And he's going to achieve that dream of glory in this universe or the 12 other universes that he's part of. Let's get into the trait here. So for your bruiser, Blackhand, what trait are you thinking?
The trait is going to be called Brutal Tyrant. When Blackhand hits a target, they are marked with his rage. This symbol means that they will take more damage from Blackhand's allies. However, should an ally not attack a marked target, that ally's damage will be decreased by as much as if it would have been increased. So say the damage increases 50%. If they're attacking someone who's not marked while that mark is up, their attack damage is decreased by 50%.
Aha, talk about shot caller to the extreme here. I love tanks that have those shot caller abilities like this. This is really, really cool. So this is an activatable trait here that you have to use to go on someone, or is it the person that Blackhand is attacking at the time?
This is the person that Blackhand is attacking, and also he will have some attacks later that do area damage that could mark multiple people. Now, of course, I think a way to kind of keep this nerfed would be to really, really limit how long those marks are active. However, it would be cool to have one target you want everybody on, but then occasionally throw out a few other select choices that your team could have their pick of.
Yeah, I love that. So that's a good way to balance it. I mean, because this is kind of a way that would be tough to get ganks or get that last hit on someone that's, running away. If Blackhand's not attacking that person, they're going to take decreased damage. But if you have some stuff that can spread it around a little bit, I think that's really cool. What are you thinking he would ride into battle? What would his mount be?
Well, I think there's no question it would have to be a wolf, because it's just orcs and wolves, for some reason in Warcraft, they just go together like peanut butter and jelly, like paladins and griffins. It's their match is made in heaven. So I would want this to basically be a werewolf. It would be covered in armor. It would have some really cool war paint. And of course, it would be the orc's version of his noble steed.
That's really cool. I think the same thing when I think of orcs as these werewolves, right? I mean, they're so cool looking, and I'm an alliance player, so I don't see them as often as someone that plays Horde side, but I'm telling you, I think they're really cool, and the wolves that we do have in Heroes of the Storm right now are really cool looking too. So bring them on. More of these animal mounts. I think they're so cool looking.
Oh yeah, that white wolf with the Horde symbol in red on its forehead, that is one of my favorite mounts.
Yeah, it's really, really neat. Okay, let's get into some basics here. So what's your first basic ability?
The first one, we're going with Cleave, just an old classic favorite. Sweeping wide and true, Blackhand inflicts massive damage to all those enemies in the arc of the swing of his weapon. Now, of course, if heroes are hit with this, they are then marked.
Oh, okay. So you can mark more than one target, making sure Blackhand's in the middle of this fight. So this is a good moment to kind of talk about what Blackhand you're imagining here. What is he wielding? What weapon does he have? Because you can go through these pictures of him and he's got a million different weapons that are like his main deal. What do you see him having?
What do I see him having? Well, I know in some of the stories he was the one that recovered Doomhammer. However, I don't see him as the rightful wielder of Doomhammer, so I don't want him to have a hammer. I feel he would have something like an axe. So
Yeah.
just a big, nasty-looking axe.
I mean, I think you probably agree with me on this, but it doesn't matter what weapon he has. I mean, he's going to run around. If there's a weapon on the ground, he's going to pick it up and he's going to do some serious damage with it until it breaks, and then he's going to pick up a different weapon and keep going.
There we go, and maybe one of the loadouts is the type of weapon you're using for the game.
Oh, that's cool. I love that idea. Oh, we need more stuff like that where Varian picks the alt and, takes Charlemagne and splits it into. We need it so that if you pick a certain ability, that's the weapon that you get when you ride into battle because of that. More visual representation of talents taken, I think, is such a cool concept. Let's get on to your second basic here. What's your W?
Okay, the W is something you'd want to either do before or after cleave. Based on the abilities it gives you and your teammates. It's called Bloodlust. Blackhand screams out in fury, empowering all those in his area to deal more damage. So damage on top of damage if you're attacking the right targets. It's beautiful.
Oh, it is beautiful. So this is a bloodlust on a basic ability here. So, I mean, it's not going to be the bloodlust I'm assuming that we see where it's this massive increase, but on a basic level that you can activate more often. This is a cool concept, especially with your trait going here. It's everybody has to attack the right target, which can be so frustrating.
It can be. So what if you had a clear way to mark targets? And of course, what if you have a tank that can empower your assassins? That would be so cool to basically reward them for attacking the correct targets, for doing their job as assassins, and that's dealing damage.
Yeah, and I'm assuming he's got a good amount of health, right? So he can be right in the middle of this fight.
Oh, he will be up in your face screaming, saliva flecks will be covering your screen. It'll be disgusting, and you'll need to go take a shower back at the core before heading back into battle. But sometimes you play heroes that don't care if they get dirty, so that's all right.
Hey guys, I'm gonna because I need to go shower off this orc saliva.
To wipe off this screen here. I can barely see what's going on. That should have been the trait, orc saliva.
Or the ult.
Oh, there we go. Just he yells in your face and you can't see anything.
What's your third basic ability here?
The third is called Devastate. Charging forward, Blackhand seeks out a single target to stun and deal damage to. Each enemy hero hit along the way of this charge reduces the cooldown of cleave.
Oh, that's a really great idea. So it's like a Nubarak burrow, except you're not going underground. You're charging forward. What happens to the enemies that are hit? Are they kind of pushed to the side like like a bowling pins as the bowling ball rolls through, or are they just hit and you just go straight through it?
Let's go with they're pushed to the side a little bit. They don't take damage because he's not aiming for them, but they're pushed to the side a bit. And only the person at the end of this skill shot, if you hit them, is stunned and then takes the damage.
And this is a really good moment where you have to have a give and take here with how much you're going to want the cooldown of cleave to be reduced in comparison to how many enemies you are going to hit with cleave once your devastate charge is completed. Because I'm imagining you would charge through a bunch of enemies, then those enemies would be out of range of the cleave that you're about to use, right? Because you've flown right past them. So I mean, you've reduced the cooldown of your cleave, and maybe you would want to charge into a big group of enemies and not hit any of them except for the one you stun, and then just swipe them all with cleave. It's kind of situational.
Yeah, Yeah, that's a very, very good point. And two, how long would this charge even be? Would it need to be shorter? So like you pointed out, you could take advantage of cleave once it was done. Or would you want it to be one of those things where it is more tactical based on where it would end you up? Would you get to the end and then be able to turn around and do cleave? Because now you're behind the enemy line that you charged through that reduced the cooldown.
Oh, totally. And I'm imagining a heroic version of this same type of ability where you charge forward, and as you charge forward, you pick up all of the heroes that you're charging with. And then at the end of it, they all get stunned, and then you can cleave all of them as they're standing there. I mean, that would be heroic, and it's the opposite of Cassia's ult, which pulls them into you, rather you're charging into them. Oh, that's sweet.
Oh, that would be amazing. The glory you could achieve from such a movement if it didn't get you killed, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Speaking of heroics, let's get into it. What's your first heroic ability here?
Well, we can't talk Blackhand or these old orcs without speaking of the blood of Manaroth. Following a deep swig of the vile green liquid, Blackhand enrages, emitting green light and energy from his body. In this state, he is a berserker, dealing obscene amounts of damage while continually regenerating health as life is siphoned passively from those around him, including his allies.
Oh, this is so cool. Okay, this is my favorite one on your kit so far. So basically, he is just all out. So you would activate this Blood of Manaroth and then charge in, right? And then so you're sucking the life out of everybody that's around you. You're cleaving, you're marking targets, but in your comp, you probably wouldn't want a lot of melee assassins to be around Blackhand because they'd be having their life drained as well.
That's a good point, but what if you have a double healer comp who can kind of make up for the fact that you're going to be siphoning life? So in that case, you would need a strong front line so that they could feed him if the enemies get away, if a lot of the enemies get away, so that even if there's only one guy you're going after, you still have this fount of healing keeping you going.
That is really, really cool. Oh, I love it. So when you say obscene amounts of damage, compare it to maybe, is it more damage than we see from a bruiser right now, even with an ultimate ability? Like, is it as much damage as Twin Blades from Varian? Or you think, because that's a lot of damage right there.
Yeah, it would probably be somewhere in that zone. I mean, it would be comparable to assassin levels of damage, I think, at this point, because you need berserkers that can do some assassin level damage sometimes. They're not only in there to deal some hits and scare people away, they're in there to kill.
Yeah, this is borderline multi-class here. Borderline multi-class tank assassin. I mean, if you take this, you're in there and you've got this basically burning rage that's fueling your own health pool, and you have more targets to drain because you can drain from your own friendlies. Wow, what a great idea. How are you going to beat that with your second heroic?
This may or may not beat it, but I like this whole idea. You go with the mark idea, right? I'm calling this death mark. And globally, all enemy heroes are now marked and take increased damage from all friendly heroes and units for the duration of the ability.
Oh, so you're talking minions, mercenaries, towers, structure damage, all that stuff is just eating away at them. Imagine activating something like this right before a team fight.
Yes, or what if you know the enemy team is trying to grab a boss and you activate it?
Oh, and you don't even have to be there? And then if you have ETC on your team, he just kind of dives in there and takes the boss right at the end and smashes them all. Okay, I can see this. I want to play this character right now.
It would be so amazing. I love global abilities, and I think a bruiser with a global ability, more bruisers with global abilities would be really, really cool to kind of add to the mix.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love the globals too. And I love how we talked a little bit about last week about how can we create more heroes that, like with Symmetra and the teleporter, that can make heroes that currently aren't global heroes. And so Yeah, Blizzard HeroesForge wants global heroes. I think we do. Oh man, that is really cool. Okay, so if you had to sum your Blackhand build up, how would you sum it up?
Probably with an orc scream. Just record somebody screaming as an orc, play that sound clip, and we've got that. That is what I would call Blackhand's build. I mean, I would have written this thing in all screams if I knew you guys understood the language of the orcs, but
you could have just written it in all caps.
Yes.
And then, does that ever bother you when people send text messages? Like my dad sends text messages that are in all capital letters, and I just want to type back and say, "Stop yelling at me." And he's like saying, "Good morning. I had eggs for breakfast."
Good morning. The eggs were great. How are you today, Jeff?
Exactly. Okay, so the orc scream. Does he scream as he charges forward? Please say yes.
Well, of course, I think everything he does is a scream. It would have to be, because he wants to make sure his team hears him from across the map, and that's an extra thing he gets. You can hear him screaming from across the map, whether you want to or not.
That's great. I love it. So basically, in your Blackhand build, we have two of the versions of Blackhand here. We have the original true version of Blackhand, and then we also have when he drinks the blood, also he becomes infected with the Legion and, influenced by it with your ultimate. So we have that Blackhand as well. And with my build, we're going with a completely different Blackhand. We're going with the alternate universe Warlords of Draenor Blackhand over here. So I'm also going with a Warrior Bruiser. I think it fits all the personalities of Blackhand.
Yeah, great minds, right? He does too much damage, I think, to be... Not that pure warriors can't do a lot of damage, but bruisers feel more warlordy, I think, because bruisers feel like they're not afraid to get their hands dirty when it comes to fighting.
Yeah, and I think that fits with Blackhand really well. And so there is a Blackhand raid encounter in this alternate universe, and I never got to play it in Warlords of Draenor, but I've been watching the videos and the lore videos and reading all the wiki pages and things like that, and it seems like it was a really awesome fight that didn't last for very long, but was a very good visually stunning fight. So I'm taking a lot of things from that fight and kind of morphing them into Heroes of the Storm ideas. And the first thing is this trait called Molten Slag. So Blackhand will need to get up close and personal in this build to deal damage to the enemy with his fiery slag hammer. So he is going to have this, hammer that's basically oozing lava. This trait, Molten Slag, is activatable, and when activated, the ground around Blackhand begins to form a pool of molten lava that will grow in a small circle to a medium to a large around his feet. Each second that this ability is active, the pool will get bigger, and enemies that are standing on this will take AoE damage from Blackhand. The thought here is like an activatable Burning Rage, but one that is dodgeable by the enemy if they are fast/smart enough to get out of the way before the pool gets too big. After the pool reaches the maximum size, it disappears, and this will need to be activated again after the cooldown is completed, and it'll start at a little circle underneath him and have to grow out.
Oh, yes, I demand that Burning Rage is built into the kits of everybody who has Burning Rage already. It is so great. Why would you not want to be on fire, dealing damage to those that are stupid enough to stand around you? I love it. I love the idea of pyromancy. I love it. So I am all for growing liquid lava around your feet. Does he transform into a dragon?
No, he does not transform into a dragon. But now that you're talking about Burning Rage, if you imagine that there was no magic involved in Burning Rage, the conversation would be very entertaining with your team standing around being like, okay, Leoric, this is going to sound really funny, but we're going to go ahead and light you on fire so that when you get closer to people, you can hurt them, okay? What are you going to do? We're going to light you on fire, okay? So just, get in there and, okay.
We're just gonna douse you with this gasoline. You don't even need to mind the smell because you don't even have a nose anymore. It's cool. Bone burns slow.
Put this Shaw on so that you'll burn for just a little bit longer and hopefully deal some damage. So yeah, basically, this is just a lava pool that is at the bottom of this fiery warlord Blackhand that just gets bigger, and then when the trade's over, it burns out, and then you gotta hit it again. And it kind of plays into a bunch of the rest of the kit, which I'll talk about in just a second. So for a mount, I'm thinking, I mean, these things are all over Draenor. These siege makers, which are like large tanks with battering rams at the front. It kind of looks, it almost exactly looks like Sergeant Hammer's orc skin, where she's got this big old siege tank that she rides out into battle. This is the same kind of idea, except this thing's got two massive battering rams that are on each side that obviously wouldn't do any damage, but just be there for a really cool look.
Well, most of it's just for looks anyway, right? The Hellbilly doesn't do anything, but it's a creature summoned from hell. Why doesn't it at least get fire breath or something? But anyway, so how would he be riding this tank? Like, what kind of pose? Because that's going to make or break him riding into battle, right?
I got the pose. So he's on top of the tank, right? And he's just there, and maybe there's like a little, like the hatch that you use to get into the tank. Obviously, he's not driving the tank because he's got all these minions and followers because he is a warlord and a tyrant. So he's not going to drive the tank. So he stands on top, and he puts 1 foot up on top, and he's just got his hammer in both of his hands, and he's got 1 foot up on the little hatch there, and he's just riding it into battle until he decides to dismount. And just now I'm thinking that he doesn't dismount like where the tank just disappears like every other thing. He jumps off of this thing into battle.
Yeah, I think so. Warlord it up, right? And if warlords are known for anything, it's spectacle.
That's one of the things they're known for. Spectacle, yes. And would it work logistically? Who cares? It's Blackhand.
We ride clouds. For goodness sakes, there's a magic carpet. We can have a large tank with a battering ram.
Fart clouds. That's what we ride. On to my basic abilities before we get derailed. This first one's called Shattering Smash. So this is Blackhand's major damage dealing ability. He swings back and brings his hammer head forward in a straight line. So as if he was using the spikes at the top of the hammer to impale the target. Not a swing like he's gonna, hit somebody with a blunt object, but more of like a stab with the hammer forward. If it connects, it will deal damage to the enemy and stun them in place. So this is a stun on cue, kind of like Muradin.
Yes. Okay, cool. And I see what you're saying. It's used more like a pike than anything. But that's really cool, right? Because you don't really see hammers with spikes used in any other way except as a hammer. But instead, you're going to be making an entire use of this weapon rather than just one single part of it. That's pretty nice. It shows his ability as a tactician to think outside of what orcs would normally see a hammer as, I guess.
Yeah, that's a really good point. It comes from me watching the Warcraft film again, and there were some really great combat animations in there. I mean, the visual effects can be spectacular at times, and there are really cool combat animations in some of the fight sequences. And so I thought, well, it's something a little different than we would think, with this giant hammer, that he would just come over the top like Leoric and smash somebody with it. So he's going to try to stab, and that kind of plays into... That stun is going to play into the rest of the kit. So the second basic ability is called Slag Bombs. So Blackhand places a slag bomb on the ground, and if an enemy hero comes in contact with the bomb, it will explode and deal damage in a small AoE circle. This also will push all heroes away from the bomb, which is similar to like an ETC power slide. The cool thing about these bombs is that if Blackhand's trait Lava Circle hits the bombs, they will detonate without being activated by an enemy.
Oh, cool. So does the enemy have to touch the bomb then? They're not within the area. They literally have to touch the bomb itself.
Absolutely. Yeah, they have to touch it, run into it. It's not going to be invisible. It's you have to run into this bomb, so you're going to spend a lot of time trying to avoid them. But if Blackhand places these bombs around him and you're trying to fight Blackhand and his trait is activated and that lava is spreading, as soon as it hits a bomb, it's going to go off. If you're in the range, you get stunned, you get hurt, you get pushed off to the side too. I mean, it's going to really disrupt your positioning.
Oh, gross. And could you imagine somebody who's practiced with this? They would know the angles, too. It would be like a really great Gul'dan fear. Miniature, of course, but a lot more. So oh my goodness, you could lay the bombs around in a specific pattern and it would just keep knocking a hero back to you and to death or to the sun.
That's right. And if you're knocking them in the direction of other bombs, they could get knocked back and, you know... It's crazy. Chat is asking if they would activate instantly or if they would have an activation like Chromie's Hourglass. I think that they would activate instantly. Like you could drop these bombs and then you could place them around. That way it gives you a little bit more cushion to make this ability work. If you have to place them, I think the enemy team would see that you're placing them and it would take too long and it probably wouldn't work out as often for you. So they'd have to find a good balance in between there.
Yeah, that's a good point because Proteus can set up his little bombs, but all he needs to do is activate the center for the explosion and then it hits everybody within there. Whereas this one, it's just the single little pinpoint that they themselves have to hit before you get that. Unless, of course, you use your trait.
Yeah. And you know, it's possible if you're in a team fight that they would run into them on their own and then they'd be in trouble. And then speaking of running into these bombs on your own, the third basic ability is called Bombs Away. So in this one, Blackhand's going to take one of his slag bombs and detonate it as he's holding it, dealing damage to himself, but pushing him in a desired direction. This ability also deals damage to enemies in the area. So you are going to choose for your escape to take damage, but also deal damage. So that's the difference between Vala Vault or Kerosene Jump Forward, whatever that ability is called. That's what they called it before the game went into beta. But this one, you're going to choose to deal damage to yourself and then be able to move in a selected direction.
Yeah, so when it goes off, would it also blow enemies back as well as doing damage? So kind of like an escape that gives you even more of a cushion?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a massive escape in that respect. You know, you're going to push them back and jump yourself forward, and taking the damage is going to be the give and take for that one.
Oh, so here's the question. When you detonate it, do you place what direction the bomb is? Or do you have to face your character the direction you want the bomb to be exploded?
I think it would happen in the direction that you're moving. So if you're going straight, it would happen. He would detonate it and it would launch him forward and then backward away from you. What are your thoughts on that?
So we could imagine then the bomb is on his back?
Right, or he's picking it up and dropping it behind him, and that's what launches him forward. I mean, does that work? Do you think that would be a cool idea, or do you think there's a better way to do that?
I think that works fine. I mean, as long as the telegraph is clear as to him, you know, because we would imagine there would be a little image of him dropping the bomb, right? So it's not instantaneous, or do you want it to be instantaneous?
I think it's almost instantaneous, right? So it's just a fraction of a second, but not instant, because I think it needs an animation.
Yeah, fair enough. Especially if he's holding it in front of him, that would just blow him back into the enemy. So it would make sense. We'd need to see him at least put something behind him so it could jettison him forward away from danger.
Yeah, that'd be really cool. And I like the idea to sacrifice. Like, he doesn't care about his health. I mean, he's going to get away or deal damage or chase somebody down, right? I mean, he's going to get it done.
Oh my goodness, I didn't think about the whole chasing somebody down, but you're right. Oh, could you imagine Lucio's almost dead and you blow yourself forward and then you stun him and you kill him?
I sense some animosity towards Lucio.
Never. Lucio has nothing but my supreme respect.
All right. And this awkward moment was brought to you by Lucio. Let's move on to the heroic abilities here. But before we get to these heroic abilities, I just want to thank the patrons again. I want to thank everybody out there for supporting the show and helping the show grow. Thank you to all of our patrons. If you're looking for that site again, it's patreon.com/HeroesForge. And also I want to thank everyone that's given us a 5-star review on iTunes. It really helps the show grow when they search for all of the great Heroes of the Storm podcasts out there. So if you like the show and you listen to us on iTunes, drop us a 5-star review with a little comment and we will give you a shout out at this point in the show, thanking you for your support. All right, let's talk about some heroics. Heroes and heroics. All right, the first one is called Iron Star. So Blackhand is going to call a massive meteor-like weapon that will fall from the sky, dealing damage to all enemies hit by this ability. Okay, so we've seen this a lot, right? This is the guillotines. This is the sulfurous smash. We've seen this, but this Iron Star is falling with so much force that it bursts through the ground of the battlefield and leaves a crater that is not passable by units. This is not a crater like, washing machine combo with Sonya where it looks like it's a crater. This is an actual hole in the ground. So this crater will stay on the battlefield for a short amount of time and can be used by the Blackhand player to help the team with positioning and possibly catch an enemy hero unaware. If the player is hit with one of the slag bombs and pushed into the crater, they will go on a reduced death timer, maybe about 10 seconds, and will need to travel back from the Hall of Storms to battle again. Heroes killed in this manner count as one half of a death to the friendly team.
Well, in this case, why bombs when you could just kick them in and yell something like, "This is Sparta!" And then it's this terrible cutscene that everyone's sick of because we just want to finish the game of the hero falling down into the black pits.
Over and over and over and over again. And I played around with the idea of this, of opening it up and being like, hey, if anything pushes you into this hole, like you go on this reduced cooldown, half of a kill count to go down into this hole and have to come back. But I think that might be too powerful. I think this also might be too powerful on its own. I just love this idea of Blackhand just going John Hamm on these people, like with his hammer, just, smashing people and throwing bombs, and people are flying into these craters in the ground made by iron stars. I mean, I love it.
Dude, you're right. I didn't think of it like that, but everything together would be this cacophony of war. I mean, with the explosions, debris is going to be flying everywhere. Maybe some minions go whipping through the air. Heroes are going left and right. They're being stunned. And now there's a hole in the center that we're throwing people into. Half deaths. I mean, you wouldn't think that would count for much, but it really, really does.
Yeah, it would be devastating, really. And Chad is saying that he would definitely have to say, this is Draenor, and just, smash people into this hole. Yeah, and you know what I think does not get enough credit in this game are the ragdoll effects. The ragdoll effects are extremely well done and very entertaining. When you actually pay attention to it when somebody dies or something, I don't know why Li Ming is like my favorite, because the sound she makes when she dies is like this blood-curdling scream thing, and her body just could, like if it was Diablo, just go flying across the battlefield. I think that we need to draw attention to that, and maybe if those things are falling down these craters, it would be a good way to do that.
Yeah, totally. And I love too the fact that you said sulfurous smash, guillotine, none of those were good enough. Blizzard, it's time. It's time to introduce something that's 10 times cooler and something we wanted with these attacks that we didn't know we actually wanted. A hole in the ground to throw our enemies in.
And imagine if they animated it. Oh, imagine how cool it would be if you were on haunted mines and you could put a hole in the ground, and if you fell in that hole, you would fall down to the mines below. But if you put the hole in the mines below, it would put you in the Nexus, and that would be the half kill timer. Or if you're on Sky Temple, when you put the hole in the ground, it shows like the sky underneath it. Or if you're in, whatever. I mean, there's so many cool things.
Oh, dude, it leads you down to Tomb of the Spider Queen, and suddenly you have to start a new game in Tomb of the Spider Queen. No, why'd you do it?
It puts you in the Garden of Terror by yourself. With bots, with AI bots on beginner. Okay, let's talk about the second heroic over here. This is called Siegemaker. So this is the same name as what his mount is. So when this is activated, Blackhand calls upon his allies to bring forth a giant Siegemaker, a tank-like war machine with 2 battering rams at the front. These Siegemakers have lots of health but don't deal much damage. Once spawned, the Siegemaker will follow a targeted player on the battlefield until it's destroyed. The thought here is that this vehicle could be used to soak damage and even body block in a team fight, forcing the enemy team to reposition if they're bottlenecked by this Siegemaker. If the Siegemaker takes damage from one of Blackhand's mines, it will light on fire and go into overdrive, moving faster and taking more and dealing more damage. This is like what we were talking about with Leoric and lighting him on fire, but basically lighting this vehicle on fire instead.
Yes, and that makes me question why we don't have vehicles lit on fire rolling after the enemies. The Greeks had giant tar balls that they lit on fire and rolled at their enemies. I guess it was the Trojans, right? The Trojans? So why can't we have giant orc machines? Would we be able to light Hammer on fire too? Could that be part of it?
I mean, it's all part of it on this show, Kristen. We can make anything part of it. So we just did. Yeah, so basically...
Sorry. So with this one, it's a friendly target that you assign the Siegemaker to, and it does range damage. And if it's assigned to the friendly target, can they control where it goes?
So I was thinking you could target it on an enemy. So you target it on an enemy and it's going to follow that enemy. And it's a big tank. I mean, bigger than Sergeant Hammer pushing down the battlefield here. And if they go in the wrong place, this thing's going to get in the way. I mean, they could use it as body blocking for triple taps or pyroblast or anything. I mean, it's you could body block it all.
Gotcha. So how would you determine what direction the tank follows after the enemy hero?
It would just follow them. So I mean, maybe that's the downfall to this idea, but basically it's going to slowly follow them and you would position your team around the tank. I mean, you'd have to really play around this ability, but I think it might be powerful enough in the body blocking aspect of it. Or, imagine on Towers of Doom and you're in that bottom section, right? And you're trying to cap that bottom tower down there, and they're on the choke point on the left, and you throw this tank out, and so it blocks that place. They're trying to get back in, so when they come back, it's still there. I mean, it's got a lot of health.
Okay, gotcha. So kind of like a ring around the rosy around this tank. And that's how you would use it to body block. And also, that would be amazing if you did put it on a stealthy, because what if when they go invisible, they don't drop aggro from it? So you always know where that stealthy is.
Ooh, I love it. That's cool. I love it. Very, very cool. So that's my second heroic there. So that's my whole build. And so if I had to sum this build up, I mean, this is the Warlords of Draenor Blackhand, which we know there are many different Blackhands in Warcraft. So, I mean, there's tons of cool places you can go with this, and we showed you 2 or 3 of them here. If you have ideas on Blackhand and what he would look like in the Nexus, send it to us in an email. You can send us an email, contactheroesforge@gmail.com, or head over to our website, which is heroesforge.club, and check out the contact tab there. Send us your ideas, because there's more Blackhands out there that could be forged. Let's go ahead and talk about specialty skins and dance moves, the best part of the show. And if you're watching the video version of this, Kristen is doing her dance moves, and if you're listening to the audio and you'd like to watch the video, you can go to youtube.com/heroesforge and check out the audio or the video over there. I'm distracted by the dance moves. Let's talk about specialty skins here. What is your idea for Blackhand's specialty skin?
Blackhand skin, I want him to be football Blackhand, and everything is the standard football uniform. He's got the helmet, the jersey, the pants, the cleated shoes. Maybe it's an enemy's head instead of a football he's carrying around, but his shoulder pads are comically large. So large, in fact, you can barely see where his little helmet is.
Well done. Have you ever heard of Blood Bowl?
No.
Blood Bowl is a Games Workshop game. I mean, this is way back. There's this Games Workshop builds models and tabletop games, and they built this game where you could build models and create football teams out of fantasy characters, and Blood Bowl has orcs in it, and so this fits perfect. I mean, that is such a great idea.
There we go. And I'm looking at a picture now from this. An orc has hair attached to his helmet. That would work too. I mean, the football outfit could have so many variations.
Yeah, that was one of the nerdy modeling things that I didn't get into, but it's really cool. So we should get in there and check out Blood Bowl from Games Workshop. I think it's discontinued. I think they don't make it anymore, but I'm sure you can find some on eBay. My specialty skin is not as cool, but in honor of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, I have decided to go back to Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1, and because my Blackhand wields a hammer that is the all-damaging hammer of, Blackhand, I'm calling his specialty skin Ronan the Accuser, which is from the first Guardians of the Galaxy film, and of course the Guardians of the Galaxy comics.
Oh, now imagine the tie-in with Iron Star. Instead of them being knocked into the hole, they're knocked into a contraption that keeps them in place so Blackhand can deliver a finishing move to feed the contraption on the ground.
Oh, heck yeah. That is really cool. And just imagining Blackhand with that hood and with the hammer that's powered by the Infinity Stone, and he's just out there. I just think that's really cool. And I'm also on a Guardians of the Galaxy kick. Did you see the second one yet?
I haven't yet. I'm kind of waiting, and I'm not listening to reviews because I made the mistake of listening to the hype for a long time for the first Guardians. So when I saw it, it was well overhyped for me. There were some great things, and there were some things I didn't enjoy, but, it wasn't this glorious comic book movie to define all comic book movies.
Right. Well, I won't tell you anything about Guardians of the Galaxy 2 except for it's good.
That's what I hear. And I hear there is a character who just steals the show and just makes it all the better.
Yeah, it's a good film. Go out there and see it. It's worth the money. Let's talk about dance moves before we close this episode out. So my dance move is also an idea from Guardians of the Galaxy. It's going to be a dance off. So Blackhand, when you type /dance on your keyboard, Blackhand will point his finger forward and begin a dance off. He will start moving his hips in a circle and then show us his dance moves, which you'll never know until Blackhand enters the Nexus.
Oh, so you're keeping it quiet. It's the most well-guarded secret in all of Heroes. No one's been able to crack the code of how they even put this together, but all people now choose Blackhand because of this one dance.
Yes, and in the source code, if you're looking for what Blackhand does in his dance, they actually put in the source code, ha ha ha, you fool, you'll never know.
Perfect! Exactly. And maybe the animation ends right before he's about to drop his sick moves. But all we know from Legend is that he's undefeated.
Absolutely. Undefeated. Okay, Kristen, what is your dance move?
I'm going to go, it's called the butterfly dance. I had to look this up, but you know the dance where you swivel your knees to the sides and then you've got your hands going with the knees to the sides? You'll have to look it up. It's hard to describe, but it's a very cool dance move that I think he would do really, really well because secretly I like to believe Blackhand is a trained professional dancer.
Yeah, so that's one thing that we can agree on, I think. And I don't think I can agree with you, though, that the name Butterfly Dance is a cool dance. It may be a cool dance move, but whoever named it really messed up.
Well, maybe they want to be deceptive, you know? Maybe they'll lull you into a sense, oh, this is going to be some boring ballet thing that I don't understand. Time for 2 hours of boredom. And then they come out and they drop the sickest butterfly dance anyone's ever seen. And it's the most amazing show of your life because your standards were set low to begin with.
That's right. You weren't overhyped like Kristen was for the first Guardians of the Galaxy. Chad is saying that Blackhand only dances over his dead enemy, so no one ever knows what that dance is.
If a Blackhand dances in the forest, does he make any dance moves at all? That's the question we should be pondering this week until the next Heroes Forge, I think.
Is there a butterfly there? That's the real question. With that, we're going to say that Blackhand has been forged.
HeroesForge.
What a blast to forge Blackhand with you, Kristen. This was really, really fun. I think that this hero, for me personally, I think it's cool. I mean, does this qualify? I mean, I think it's on the border. It is Warcraft. But also, I think it falls into that classic realm, depending on the Blackhand that you're talking about here. I mean, it lives in Warcraft for sure, but it's an old character, and I think it would be cool, and I always think it's cool when they bring these old characters back.
Yeah, he's definitely a classic one that I don't think has made the transition to modern Blizzard, like other heroes have. Varian, Anduin, Sylvanas, Arthas, you know, those names. Blackhand kind of existed in early Warcraft, and we see him still, but it's not what it was.
Yeah, absolutely. So do you think that in any of these versions, I mean, I think we have a good amount to, or Blizzard has a good amount to work with here, that they could definitely bring Blackhand into the Nexus, and we need more orcs, right?
We do. We've got Thrall, Rhaegar, Rexxar, thank you. I just messed those two up. You know, confusing Rexxar, Rhaegar there.
No, they're both orcs. Yeah, all three of them are orcs, and that's it.
Wow, I didn't realize. I thought there would be more orcs. So that's interesting that there haven't been as many, especially since the first Warcraft was all about humans and orcs specifically. Yeah,
so it's time for another orc, and I think Blackhand would do the job. What do you think?
I think so too, but with the stipulation that maybe they're trying to get other Warcraft races in there because we don't have a Draenei yet, and they've got their own pretty big story.
Yeah, I want Kil'jaeden.
Ooh,
spoiler alert.
Because he was one of them. Well, the Draenei were the exiles, and right. Kil'jaeden was part of that original race before it broke.
Oh, we might need to do Kil'jaeden at some point. Yes, and Chad is even saying that we need a female orc too. Yeah, I definitely agree. A lot of directions you can go with orcs. There's tons of characters out there, which is why this show keeps going. It's great, and Blackhand's a great part of the Blizzard universe and would definitely fit in Heroes of the Storm because I know there's a bunch of different directions that they could go. Kristen, where can people find you in the interwebs when you are not doing Heroes Forge on Sunday night?
Well, when I'm not here, you can find me at Dream Destroyer. That is DRMDESTRYR over at Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram.
That's right. And what games are you working on now?
Well, we just finished Resident Evil 7, and if you haven't played Resident Evil 7 and you enjoy Resident Evil, it is a great reboot of the series. Just a fun game all around. Wonderful ending, as always. And that means this coming Saturday, we start Outlast 2.
Oh man, you are ripping through these games and they're all so good. Check out Kristen's stream. It's definitely worth every second of your time to watch that stream. If you're looking for me, you can find me right here on Heroes Forge. We record the show live every Sunday night at 7 p.m. Pacific on twitch.tv/Amove TV, which we talked a little bit about at the beginning of the show. We are so honored to be part of the Amove TV entertainment podcast video game network. Check them out at amove.tv for more great shows. I was listening to The Angry Chicken, and I mean, these shows are produced so well and they're so great. So just check out amove.tv. Also, if you want to learn more about our show, you can check out our website, which is HeroesForge.club. And over on HeroesForge.club, you can check out all of the 70 episodes that we've been doing for about a year and a half now of these characters we've been talking about week after week. We've forged battlegrounds. We've talked to esports teams. We've talked to developers from Blizzard. It's been a journey, and you can check it all out on HeroesForge.club. I've plugged everything else today except for Twitter. If you'd like to follow us on Twitter, you can follow us at Forge Heroes. We're the Twitter vote. Gauntlet has been thrown, and we'll put the vote up for which one of these two Blackhand builds you think won the day over on twitter.com/Forge Heroes. Thank you again to all of our patrons and everyone that's given us a 5-star review on iTunes. You are all rock stars, as well as everybody that hangs out in chat. Rock stars, all of you. Kristen, final thoughts on Blackhand.
Final thoughts on Blackhand. If they bring him into the Nexus, I want him to be brought in with all of his full gory glory. I want them to change the rating to R, and I want them to animate him brutally ripping through his enemies. That's what I would want from a warlord like this.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, it would definitely have to be brutal, and there are parts of that Warcraft film where it does get pretty brutal. So, I mean, bring it in. Bring it on. I love it. So, we're going to call the show there. Thank you so much for listening, and we will catch you all in the real world.